Oh, just
in time.
I was just about to welcome everyone, and then we get someone joined just as we start. Hello, and welcome back to Madmen with the Box. This is our weekly live stream. We are here to review the latest episode of Doctor Who, Series 14/Season 1. It's funny that they've called this Season 1, but like literally everyone, even official like news outlets, call it Series 14. It's like we're not buying that. It's Series 14. Come on. But I'm joined here as always from a distance, Professor Pixel, and of comics, Joe Corallo. Maybe a Landry will appear. Maybe, as Connor from 50% says, Jimbo. Old Jimbo might appear. We don't know. He's been here consistently, so it's a high chance. Of all the unanswered questions in this episode, the one that can be answered is, will Jimmy be here? But before we get into that, we have a couple little bits of news before we get into our review. Pixel, what should we start with? Yes. With Jimmy's favorite doctor?
Yes, we should. Because Big Finish has revealed the cover for their next release for the Sixth Doctor, The Trials of a Time Lord, which has nothing to do with Trial of a Time Lord, mind you.
No.
I love this tweet because they're saying that basically they discussed whether to celebrate Attack of the Cybermen or The Two Doctors or Revelation of the Daleks, and they decided yes.
Yeah, so this is their second in their celebration of, 40 years of the Sixth Doctor? So we had Quinn Dilemma, which was their main one. This is their follow-up with Trials of a Time Lord. So yes, it looks like we're actually getting something to do with older Perry because that's Warrior Queen Perry.
Yes.
So I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, we did kind of get that with Quinn Dilemma, with him traveling with older Perry. So I'm surprised we're actually getting more of that. Davros in his Imperial Dalek casing.
That's cool.
that's a nice little detail. And of course, I think they announced earlier in the year, David Banks is returning as the Cyber Leader. So we got Cyber Leader right behind Davros.
This is excellent news.
Excellent. Yes. But no, this is the cover reveal. Very excited for this one. Quinn Dilemma was really, really good. So I got high hopes for this one as well.
Yeah, me too. I'm just a little upset. They named it The Trials of a Time Lord when they could have used it to celebrate Trial of a Time Lord within the next couple years. But it's fine. I'm very excited. This is going to be very good.
Yeah.
I
can't wait. Time Slash, I guess. must we never celebrate Time Slash?
No. I honestly, why are you celebrating the Two Doctors?
It is a weird thing to celebrate. At least it's not an anagram or for you rearrange the words to lame shit like with Time Slash. That's I feel like maybe you don't do that,
I mean, hey, as far as I know, I don't think in any media they've done the story where the third Doctor goes to that planet, because there's a mural of him there to show the Doctor's been here before. So I don't know if they haven't done one yet. So who knows? That could be the big celebration.
Maybe.
Here's how it really went down. Here's how it all started.
That's right.
We can hope.
It'd be timed lashes.
This looks.
In all fairness, though, isn't it incredible thinking about John Pertwee in most Colin Baker stories? If you swap doctors, It would be fucking hilarious.
It would be. It would be. Hi, Sean.
It would be.
Yes.
Like, John Pertwee would just be so upset all the time. Just...
I think the only thing that would make sense with him swapping out with the Third Doctor is when the Sixth Doctor kills a Cyberman. It would still make sense with the Third Doctor. But the Third Doctor would not use the Sonic Lance. He would just use the Venusian Aikido.
He would Aikido powers, yeah.
Yeah.
The alternate universe where after the Fifth Doctor regenerates, he regenerates into a new Third Doctor. So the Third Doctor is the Sixth Doctor.
Oh boy. But I love thinking of John Pertwee with 80s synth in just miserable situations. Just like Revelation of the Daleks. Like, he would just be so upset and just like horrified by it.
Yes. Or even better, John Pertwee with Syl.
It's a shame we never got to see those two acting next to each other, right?
Hey, Big Finish, here's an idea for you. Third Doctor meets Syl. There we go. You can have it for free. I don't want any royalties from that.
No, please, none, never.
God, no. But yes, cover reveal for the Trials of a Time Lord. Greatly anticipating it. Next piece of news.
The Doctor is half like digital.
Because 80s, I don't know.
I don't think so. But, okay, so next is actually this was a trailer, but we're not going to be playing that, obviously. But the final 9th Doctor Adventures, at least for a while, has released. Starcross, starring River Song and the 9th Doctor together.
Yes. So with how they worded it, a lot of people were kind of freaked out, thinking, oh no, they've ended the 9th Doctor Adventures. To which I say, I don't care.
That's very rough. That's very rough, you know.
It became a very stagnant series. You might have like one story that stood out, but like after it just... And to think that Christopher Eccleston said, these are the kind of stories I wish I had in the TV series. I'm like, really? Probably in your first 2 series of the audios, maybe. But these later ones, come on. You just want the paycheck.
But
I can respect that.
Really, and like I've heard a couple clips from this latest release. It does sound like it might be a good solid adventure. But you won't know.
But no, this is the end of this series because they always do 4 box sets of series. So most likely, he's just going to come back for the next lot. Or if they are ending it, they're just relaunching it. Because that's Big Finish's big thing now. It's just like, we're ending the series. This is it. Actually, no, they'll come back with a new one. We've just renamed it. You know, Diary of River Song is now the Death and Life of River Song. War Doctor Begins, now War Doctor Rises. So, who knows? Is this the end?
Let's be fair. Let's be fair. The new River Song Adventures are set specifically, whereas before the diary was ambiguous about where it is in the timeline. This one,
except for one story, which was set after
one story, yes. But other than that, this one is specifically set after the library,
which should only work as a story, which is what they did. So
I know, but it's
to pull it out, to spread it out to an entire series, I think is a bit much. But I don't know.
So, but with also War Doctor, he just needs to commit more war crimes, and then it'll be okay. He just needs
to
as possible.
Sure. But yeah, that's our news. Aside from Jimmy sending us a Radio Times article saying that Karen Gillan said that Matt Smith is the greatest actor to play the Doctor, which don't think we have much to say on.
No. Well, there's also the fact that Matt Smith also said in an interview lately for House of the Dragon that he almost didn't do Doctor Who until his agent told him, "You're doing it."
Well, that's because his agent is Wendy Padbury.
I know.
It was Zoe.
You're going to be Doctor Who.
Wow, the Doctor Who actor told an actor, "You're doing Doctor Who." She could have just said, "You're British." There we go. You're British. You have this. You have no choice.
The Scots are optional. The Scots are optional. You're
yes.
British.
You're British. You have to do this. Again, if he was American and he was offered Star Trek and said no, his agent would say, "No, you're American."
Yeah, no, I have no way to extend this any further. I'm kind of sad that you are very upset with the series because this is one that I would actually be interested in listening to. So,
yeah, it's just like the first series is really good. The second series is still also kind of really good. I think this series, which is the third series, is where it really started to stagnate. They were just doing the same thing, just over and over and over again. I think the gimmick of just him being by himself only works for so long, to where it's just like, yeah, it's a very obvious they want to do stuff with Rose, but Christopher Eccleston said that he wants to do solo stuff.
Well, no, now it's a case of it would just cost too much.
Yeah, but now it's the case it would cost too much to get both of them together to do it. So I don't know.
Until Christopher Eccleston needs to make his next rent payment, then he will go ahead and come back. But for now, he's hung up the coat.
I guess while we wait to see if a Landry or a Jimbo, as we are now referring to him as, comes back, let's get into our review. So, Doctor Who, Series 14, Episode 4, 73 yards. Let me get up a little synopsis of this. Probably by a little bit of time. I should have prepared earlier, sorry. Yes, so Doctor Who, Series 14, Episode 4, 73 yards, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Dylan Holmes Williams, music by Murray Gold. So this story sees the Doctor and Ruby landing on the Welsh coast, embark on the strangest journey of their lives. In a rain-lashed pub, the locals sit in fear of ancient legends come to life. Funny how that synopsis really has nothing to do with this episode. It is a blatant lie of a synopsis. Now, okay. Let's see, Joe. I was going to say I want to go first, but I'm going to save mine for last. I have a lot to talk about with this episode.
Yeah,
so,
no, I feel like I do too. I still don't know if I like this episode. There's a lot about it I like. There's a lot about it I don't like at all. I think I liked more than I didn't like. But there was still a lot to really, really not like. I think one of my biggest things, and this is not anyone's fault in particular, I guess, but like having smaller seasons, it's like we're really doing a Dr. Light episode on the first season with them in a shorter season, like things like that. That's just like that was immediately immediately after Boom, which
David
was
had a Dr. Light episode in his first series. But even then, that was still a 12 to 13 episode series.
It was also still one of the worst episodes ever in the series.
I mean, the best.
Yeah, and also it was like, but we didn't have a Dr. Light episode with Eccleston. Like, you know, like it's just like, this is like, we're just back. You know, there was a bit of a break. Did we really need to do that now? Especially immediately after Boom, which was like another small story, like a small scale story that felt kind of like budget conscious to some extent. So to have that immediately after, just, I don't like how that feels, because then it feels like a slightly cheaper so like right off the bat, I'm like, with that.
But it also doesn't help that it seems like this next episode is also going to be kind of like that.
Yeah.
That's
so yeah. So there's that. We didn't really like it's weird, right? Because like Ruby's good, but we somehow spend this time with her without really learning more about her, because she's so focused on solving the thing that it's like there's not a lot of exposition stuff, which is fine, but it's like, I feel like it's like when you catch up with someone over coffee, maybe an old coworker, relative or something, and like you just catch up over coffee for like an hour or something like that, and you're kind of just going through the motions. It's like, you know, tip of the iceberg stuff. It's not like you really have a deeper connection with the person. You just, you know, it's like, oh, how's life? What's this? It feels like I got coffee with Ruby for an hour. Like, I don't like know this character any better. There's nothing that she does in this story that makes me understand her more than any of the previous stories did. If anything, what she was willing to sacrifice in Boom immediately before this gave us more about her character than this story, which felt very, oh, she's just running around trying to solve this thing. And Ruby often came off kind of unsure about how things would, like, I don't like the plot contrivance of having a thing like this that goes over a prolonged period of time, because it's like the emotions and the things don't really make sense. Like if this was her life for, you know, many years after, it's what, 20 or something years or so before the whole Mad Jack thing. So like, we never got to experience time with Ruby kind of just being over it and like that's her life, because that's what you would do. Over time, after a while, if any one of us was in a situation where there was just a woman standing 73 yards away at all times, after a few weeks or so, like your body, you just have to adjust to that, like as a survival mechanism. And it seemed like she did in a way that was just kind of weird. And then it's like, the setup for the ending, having to stand at a certain place to be close enough to Mad Jack, and then for him to talk to her, like, that was so fucking stupid. I was like, wow, that's up there with just like, oh, it's reverse polarity of the neutron flow. Ugh. Like, it's like that kind of awful garbage of just like, I don't know. It was weird. The whole ending there, like the very end, like after that with her and the circle and all that, like, and I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who just kind of assumed that was going to be the ending, like almost immediately. And then we got exactly what I thought was going to happen. And I don't always call stuff. There are plenty of times I don't, but like, and it's not the show's fault necessarily for that, but if I see that setup and I see the girl stay, I'm like, oh, this is going to be one of those time, and then this, and then like, obviously. And then it plays out exactly that way. It's kind of deflating. Like, so there was that. I'd say, like, still with all of that, like the first 2/3 probably of the episode is pretty good. Like, there's a lot of mystery and like trying to figure out what's actually going on, what the threat is, this and that. The bar scene is excellent. It starts getting like a little weaker after that with her going home and the mom stuff, and like the really like, low hanging fruit kind of like, you're not even my daughter. We went over this already. Of the Church of Ruby Row, we had this whole thing happen, but we're retreading that already. So like there's that to it. I mean, still better than Space Babies, absolutely.
That's not hard. That's a low bar, though.
Yeah, low bar, but like,
even me,
absolutely.
who was nicer to Space Babies than the rest of you. Yeah, it's not really a high bar to to surpass.
No, absolutely, but yeah, one of my other criticisms, and this is like a writing thing, is I hate that trope that they do sometimes, and this isn't just Doctor Who thing, but like having Unit and do the whole like, don't worry, nothing can happen. We have the best of everything. Oh God, I can't believe that happened. And it plays out like immediately and like that. And I'm like, I hate that stuff. It's like, doing the techno babble, of course, nothing back. And it's like, we've seen this a million times. It's so tired to do incompetent Unit again and again and again.
So the way that, if I could just say, the way I interpreted that scene is because that's the last effort. That's the last hope that Ruby has of figuring out what the hell this thing is. It was just to go ahead and hammer the nail in, to go ahead and have her settle in. Fine, that I'll live like this for the rest of my life. That's how I took it. I understand it's a tired trope, but it is the way to hammer the nail in.
But like, it's infinitely better if you just cut that dialogue bit out and she's just meeting with Unit and then they do their thing. It's that over the top. It's the difference between watching a movie where people are going into a haunted house and you're thinking they're all stupid, and a movie where that same thing happens, but like the boyfriend turns to the girlfriend and goes, don't worry, nothing bad will ever happen in the haunted house we're about to go. It's like it's the difference between that. It's like just trim that dialogue. And it's improved. But yeah, you have that, you have again like the Mad Jacks, like things like are coming together, but it's like not, it's like, who cares? Like, there's a moderator in the chat, maybe.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Stop it. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm trying to stop it. It's getting.
Yeah. But it's very like, I don't know. It's good. I like when Doctor Who does this sometimes. I feel like this episode was getting a lot of praise out the gate, but I also don't feel this episode like, I enjoy it enough, but especially when there's things like Big Finish and just the amount of Doctor Who stories we get. it's like this is ground that has like it's not that unique in Doctor Who to do this at this point. It's done a lot. So I do feel like, yeah, I get it, but it's like I do think the episode thinks it's a little more clever than it actually is. I don't think it's like that smart. It's doing something interesting. It's playing with some tropes or leaning into others. The setup, especially like I said, like the first 2/3 of the episode in particular, very strong. But I do feel like there's something, especially in like that last bit and all of that, where it just doesn't. It ultimately doesn't make it to be like one of the greats or the best this season or anything like that.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, I feel I do need to point out, and I didn't know this actually, but Ashawn is saying, and it does make sense, that this was the first episode to be filmed, as they didn't have Shooty because he was busy filming Sex Education still, his final season on there. So I mean, yeah, that makes sense,
Sure.
but
no, for sure.
I agree and disagree.
Uh-huh.
Because I feel this episode, while it is doing a lot of what you say, not giving any kind of answer to what the woman is actually saying that pulls all these people away, and RTD talking about that, oh, I'm not going to tell you. I thought it was more of the paradox of this remnant of Ruby existing that was sending people away. That's what I thought, because that's what it's revealed at the end. If people were not expecting spoilers about a week later, I don't know what to say to them.
Well, sure.
Because I felt that the old Ruby's existence was the problem. So they went up, they spoke to her, and they looked at young Ruby and realized something was wrong. It was pushing them away. I do think Ruby has a strong performance in this episode, so that's another that is another good thing about it. But I do agree, a Dr. Light episode in a Doctor's first real season, when we haven't had that many episodes with him, and we're already getting an episode where he disappears completely from a timeline. Yeah. It's like a little much. It's a little much. I'm adding the late Landry Q. Walker.
Hello.
I'm finishing my thoughts, Landry, so you have a minute.
All right. Do what you got to do.
You have seen this episode, right?
Yes.
Very good. I feel that this is still a strong episode, despite its problems. I think that this episode still stands strong. When we go ahead at the end of the season and we start comparing which episodes were the worst, Space Babies will obviously be the bottom, but I don't think this is going to be along with it, because the performances are interesting. It sets up Ruby's personal plot of going after Gwillem, and I think that's a strong scene, even though walking on a field does not warrant raising your guns. I'm sorry. It doesn't make much sense. But I still really thought the episode was solid. I like the lean of the supernatural and Unit in that scene, talking about how since the toy maker, they have tried to become experts in supernatural affairs. I do like that mention. As Ashawn said, it isn't complete gibberish. It's going to be important later on. But it still feels, because Unit just goes away after. I was hoping Kate would see the team would run away and she wouldn't be affected by it and try to figure something else out. But she gets affected over the earphones, which doesn't make much sense when Ruby's mother walked up to the apparition and she couldn't hear anything. Ruby herself.
Yep.
But yeah. And the pub scene really just sets up that people in Wales are assholes. They suck. That's all it sets up. But it's still a solid episode to me. I did enjoy 73 Yards a lot. I just wish it came later.
Yeah. All right. For me, now.
You want to do Landry first? Because I know you want to go last.
I can go now. That's fine.
Don't matter to me.
Landry's last.
For me, I have a problem. I think this is a really good episode. Just the setup of it, the performances, the music, the directing, everything about it is really, really good. It is really, really good. But my problem with it is that I am very frustrated with the episode itself. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm a sucker for stuff that has ambiguity, that has mystery, and that has like unanswered questions. That just makes you think, theorize, whatever. Huge fan of Twin Peaks. That has a lot of that. That is the groundwork of like Twin Peaks and anything that's influenced by it. I eat it up. I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. My problem with this episode is that it does too much. Now, there's ambiguity that does work. We don't need to know what the woman was saying. That is something that can definitely be left up to interpretation because everyone, even it goes from strangers to loved ones that just run away in fear and hate Ruby. Could we ever imagine what the woman was saying that would make people act like this? I don't think we ever could. There could be many different things that could be said. That can be left ambiguous to what it is. We don't really need an answer to what the woman was saying. But the problem is, there's too many other unanswered questions. Why is the woman saying this? How does she do it? Why does it have to be 73 yards she's away? Why is it at the end, once Ruby's like old and dying, does the woman suddenly get closer? Why does it send her back in time? Why is it that why? There's too many questions. Now, this works in something like Midnight. Midnight has a few questions, but they all tie into the one big question. What is it? Where in this one, there are two. The questions are all over the place, and I'm just getting very frustrated because it's like, I really like this episode, but on one hand, I don't want to be spoon-fed everything. On the other hand, you have to start explaining some stuff because it's not making any sense. Because, okay, so is Ruby being punished because she's released Mad Jack? Because there's a note that says "Rest in peace, Mad Jack," and then the politician who the doctor just mentions to her causes a nuclear war in the future. His nickname was Mad Jack. So was stepping on the circle released Mad Jack and he became this politician? We don't know because we really get nothing that tells us this or even like points us into that direction. And it's so weird that it's like, okay, so the doctor accidentally breaks the circle, but Ruby is the one that's getting quote unquote punished by this mysterious woman that is, if anyone tries to speak to her, it causes them to run away in fear and hate Ruby. Is there a reason? Again, why? Even if we didn't have the reveal at the end that the woman was Ruby the entire time, future old Ruby the entire time, why? Yes, Ruby did read some of the notes, but the doctor was the one that broke the circle. And then the fact that the pub scene in particular, I really like the pub scene because the thing is, it gives you inklings of like, maybe this is what it is. Because like, oh, it's a fairy circle. There's fairies. You've disrespected you've disrespected them. You know, you're getting punished, whatever, yada yada yada. So it made me think, okay, is fairies the quote unquote threat that we get the reveal at the end? But we don't. And then even like one of the characters I think is named Josh. And I think one of the letters on the fairy circle said like "Love you, Josh." So I was starting to think like, okay, are they part of the circle too? Are they released as well? But like we get nothing from that. There's too many unanswered questions, and I think Russell really needed to dial it back. I'm fine with a little bit of ambiguity. I'm fine with a little bit of mystery, unanswered questions, but it was just too much. And I know it probably wasn't Russell's intention, but it really does feel like, oh, I'm smart. So, I wrote this, and I'm very smart for writing something like this. It's like, no, you're not. I'm not gonna give you answers. It's like, so.
I agree with you on some things. The love you, Josh, which was written, that was at the end of the episode when they show the fairy circle again, because it's supposed to be like, don't open it. So the doctor's punishment, you are right, Sean. The doctor's punishment for breaking the fairy circle was pretty much banishment from that timeline. His existence was wiped away at once. At that moment. But for Ruby, she went ahead and she read the scrolls. I don't really see it as Mad Jack taking over Roger at Gwillem, because he exists one way or another. However, in the timeline that we get to witness, Ruby stops him. But we know...
The thing is, I just wish there was a bit more of like Mad Jack being the quote unquote antagonist. Because you have it mentioned, the people in the pub mention it, and then Rogers says, "Oh, they used to call me Mad Jack," and it's just like, okay, so but that's only there because it was in the fairy circle. The people in the pub mentioned it. The doctor also mentioned that this guy starts a nuclear war. That's the only purpose, so that Ruby can go and be part of his team to find a way to stop him. And that's also another thing. I don't like how they handled the very much heavily implied essay that was happening to that woman. I forgot, was it Marnie or something? Marnie or Marty? The heavy implication that Roger was doing some very terrible stuff to her. It really did feel like, okay, we need people to know that this guy is very evil. It's like we kind of get that from, he wants to essentially, we know that he's going to start nuclear war. I don't think we also need to add this. I know what they were going with. These are situations that do happen with people in power, especially like politicians, where they use their power to get what they want. They do this to people. They think they can get away with it. But the whole politics side felt like this should have been in a different story. And the fact that Ruby hears of this and doesn't do anything about it, it really makes me question Ruby's morals. Because it's very, very clearly, like, we can see this woman has gone through some very terrible stuff. And Ruby doesn't really do anything about it.
But that's the whole point of the scene in the stadium. Ruby
that happens afterwards.
Sorry that I waited so long, but I needed the perfect moment. Because she uses that.
Yeah, I think she couldn't do anything until that moment.
Yeah, that's why she waited. She waited until her perfect moment to go ahead and get Roger at Gwillem, away, to banish him, very much. So Sean says that it follows the Welsh folklore, fairly well, but it doesn't explain it.
I think that's a problem with this, and it's also a problem with this era, is that RTD just doesn't like to explain stuff.
All All right.
Why do the goblins disappear when the Goblin King dies? Is it because they're connected to each other? That it's like a symbiotic relationship or something? We don't know because we're not told. They just disappear because the plot said so. How does bi-generation work?
It just does.
It just does. You just have to accept it. I'm not going to tell you. I think those things and a few others, and then it really coalesces, and it's really a problem with this story, and I don't like that. Again, I don't need to be spoon-fed everything, but I would actually like some explanations every once in a while.
Yeah. I think with that, though, unless you have anything more to add, I think Landry needs to give his thoughts before we go into
I do have some opinions.
It's a really good it's a really good episode. I'm just very frustrated with the lack of explanations. But go ahead, Landry.
I thought it really did a great job at making space babies look good. That is the nicest thing I could probably say.
Oh,
that's evil! Oh my god!
I was so bored watching this episode. I mean, I thought it was great up until she wakes up in the morning in the tavern and the night has passed. Like, you could have done, and I know it's like it's hitting the cliche, and the whole point was to subvert our expectations. We got this great American Werewolf in London moment where she's in the pub with the, superstitious people, and they play the joke about the phones. Of course, we have a phone. Of course, you can pay with your phone, which was great. That was great. But now you've already done the joke. So what you don't do is do the joke again and then run away from all of that. And it just kept going, and the story just kept changing. And Ruby herself is confused. It's like, I don't get what the plot is here. What's supposed to happen? Aha, I get it. It's Mad Jack. It's this guy. That's my purpose. That's what this is all about. And she does it. It's like, no, that's nice that you did that, but it's just going to keep going. And she isn't the only saving grace of the episode is that the main character is as in the dark as we are. And she never gets consequentially out of the dark, and neither do we. And it's just a bunch of stuff that happens, and that's not a story. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens. It's what's the there's writerly terms about it. I never went to writer school, so there's we're talking about plot versus I forget the terminology it's used, but it's a good example of a bunch of scenes happening. Even if they're cool scenes happening, is not a story. It's just a bunch of things happening. Like if for a moment when it looks like they're going to be dealing like with this increasing tension, this midnight-like sort of thing, this like there's something outside this pub and you woke it up, you stepped on the fairy circle, that's bad and it's going to get worse. I was in for a minute. So that is one of the problems with subverting expectations too, is like you give me a premise I'm actually interested in. To me, that's not the premise, you dumb viewer. You don't get to watch that. That would be just cliche. Instead, it's just going to be a bunch of things that happen and you're never really going to know why. Yeah, that's much better. Thanks, Russell.
See, I would have preferred if like the whole story was more leaning into the Welsh folklore and was just in the village.
In the village, in the pub. They never had to leave the pub. Do a bottle episode in the pub from that point on. I would be fine with it. We never even see what it is that's out there. Is it given life, or is it literally just their own fears and paranoia? And there's really nothing out there. You could maybe just tripping on the circle and their fears are manifesting. I would be much more interested in that. So they are their own worst enemy. And the more afraid they get, the more dangerous the story gets. Actually, I kind of like this, so no one take that. That's mine.
Sean wants to just mention that Kate mentions something about us making our own rules to explain what happens to us. So Ruby assumes that stopping Mad Jack is her purpose with the stalker lady.
And they go ahead.
No. If you have more to say, go ahead.
Well, I mean, just a way to make Kate Lethbridge Stewart has he ever been effective at anything? Has he ever been good at anything? I mean, I would say there are times going way back in the past. There were moments where unit facilitated the doctor doing something, and they weren't even trying to do it themselves. They just said, "Hey, doctor, guess what? There's a problem. You're probably the guy to go do it. We'll hang back here. See you later." Great.
So the way that I took the pub scene, though, was even the people there, I hated that phone gag because that's just an asshole thing to do.
It was an asshole thing to do.
There's no saying that they would have tap to pay at their pub. It's just saying.
Right. Well, the point being is that the joke is, of course, Ruby does not actually know what year it is.
Yeah.
That made it entertaining. Like, for all she knows, it's 1973. She's like, this is awkward. I liked seeing a time traveler struggle without clear context clues, because 10 years makes a huge difference. 5 years makes a huge difference with tap to pay.
Oh, we took that entirely differently then, because I figured that she thought it was close to her year, because otherwise, why would you go to the effort of explaining how tap to pay works? I work at Publix, where shopping is a pleasure, and I have to explain how exactly you need to use our little pin pads.
No, she just doesn't know what year it is. And so, for all she knows, they haven't invented it yet because it's pretty new even today.
No.
Yeah.
So that worked for me. That completely landed. I was all on board for that. And it was a great subversion of expectations moment, but a small one. And we go, okay, it's modern day. Great. You've established the year in a comfortable, natural way.
But it's the following part where they go ahead and they say all this stuff about the legend and it.
Oh no, that's trash. That was trash.
Really? You didn't like that?
No, when they go, haha, we're just kidding. Grow up. There's no such thing. Look at your face, idiot. You're so stupid. Like, no, that was like, you just did the joke with the phone. It's the same joke. It's just you just did it bigger, and that's not better. It's just more. It's like, okay. And now what? Now a bunch of stuff happens. I really loathed this episode.
But it's partially, like, to me, it's showing that the people don't, not all of them really believe in it. But obviously some do at the end when you have little love notes saying, I love you, Josh, and stuff placed on the circle for hopes and dreams. There's this little belief in some of them, but not all of them. It's different.
That's cute, but I'm not super interested in the people that don't believe the story is happening unless it comes up in some interesting, it matters to the story. It's like, you're reading Batman and Batman never shows up and no crime ever happens and no supervillains show up. And it's really just some guy going to work and he happens to be in Gotham and nothing happens that relates to Batman. It's like, okay. What, did I read a Batman comic? No. These people, are they important to the story or are they just there for the gag?
Yeah, it's a weird.
I mean,
it's a weird yes and no.
They're not important.
Because it makes it with them, kind of leaning into the whole like the folklore, the fairy circles. It seems like Russell gives you the idea. Okay, this is what it's going to be or might be, but then it isn't really. But it kind of is. But we're not going to explain that.
Yeah, it's just. I mean. Here's the thing. We've had, what is this, episode 6? 5? 5. And two of them have not been
good. This week.
Huh?
We've had 5 episodes, and for me, personally, I found 2 of them to be pretty weak. I thought 3 were pretty good. Let's see. We had the music one was good. I liked that. What was one after the music one?
Boom.
God, I don't remember what happens in that one.
The minefield?
Oh yeah, I liked that. That was okay. And then one before this was what?
That was Boom.
That was Boom. Okay, so which one am I forgetting?
We were wrong. We're not on episode 5. This was episode 4. We're halfway.
It's coming up as episode 5 because Disney Plus is putting the Church of Ruby Road as episode 1. Even.
Well, when they say we get 8 episodes, are they counting Ruby Road?
No.
No.
So we're getting 9 according to the Disney count.
9, yes.
Okay. Well, all right. So on that note, we've had 50% of them have been absolutely dull for me. And 2 have been one of them has been great, and another one of them has been good. And quite good, I think. But 2 of these, you only get 8 episodes this season. 9, whatever. It's not, there's not room to squander anything here. They all have to really nail it. And I feel like this was an experimental episode. It was experimental writing. It was let's tease you with ideas. Let's let you come to your own conclusions. Let's play with the audience's preconceptions and subvert them. That can be really interesting when you have the real estate to do it. But we get 8 episodes and we waited a long time for them. So it's dangerous. It's a dangerous ground in that regard.
I do. Did you hear what I said that Sean pointed out to us as we were starting about how this episode was the first episode to be filmed because Shooty was away for his sex education, his final season on there?
Ah, that's funny.
That makes sense.
I'm trying to imagine the guy trying to get the character back and forth for the 2 characters. That's so different. I mean, they usually do in the longer seasons anyway. And they do a companion episode and a doctor episode, and that's how we end up with Turn Left and so on and so forth. To give one of the actors a break. I guess it's a different reason that relates back to the similar place in this one, but no, I didn't like it. I think is the short version.
Okay. And we won't be getting Jimmy's opinion this evening. So.
Yeah, where's he? Where did he text in? Did he?
He didn't write it all.
Oh, Jimmy, hurting.
Much like this episode, you'll never know.
Maybe he stepped on a fairy circle.
Oh no,
Jimmy!
We should have listened to his words. We would know who to stop in the future.
I guess
anyway,
we're going to ratings, right?
Yes, we're going to ratings. Joe, what would you give 73 yards?
There's so much I do like, but so much I really hate about this episode. Like so.
Oh yeah, I didn't hear your opinion, so.
Yeah, I was basically like the first 2/3 were pretty fun. Like I really like the pub scene, but like once you really knew where it was going by like that last third, like it really fell apart for me pretty hard.
Yeah.
So like I feel like this is going to probably age more poorly for me, but I'll give this a 6 out of 10. Like I think I like more than I don't. But the stuff I don't, I really don't, and I hate it a lot.
You okay there, Pixel?
Oh, Pixel.
I'm okay.
Wait till you hear what I have to say.
Yes, Landry.
Let's go to me.
Because you gave Space Babies a pretty low rating, so
I'm trying to remember what I gave Space Babies.
It was like a 3 or
I'm really stretching, and I'm gonna be nice to this one, and I'm gonna give it a 1.75.
Oh God!
I wish I was making a joke. I'm gonna be honest. Like Ruby is fine. I don't love Ruby. I don't know her well enough to care enough. She doesn't drive a whole story well for me yet. This episode, if it did anything well, it made me like Ruby a little bit more.
Sure.
I liked Ruby playing older Ruby. Honestly, I liked her more there than playing younger Ruby, and that was interesting. I don't mean older Ruby, but that mid-level. But I'd already been thinking this for a while, and that I don't think they've done anything good with Kate Lethbridge Stewart. She really just is terrible most of the time. She just doesn't know what she's doing. And I mean, I'm struggling to find anything good. Like usually, at least if the Doctor was there, I like the actor, and of course I already know who the Doctor is, so there's no need to really win me over with the character. So I can ride along with the Doctor even if I don't like the adventure that much. But the Doctor wasn't there, and it was a weak adventure. So if you take the titular character out and you don't nail it, like Turn Left, great example. They nailed the story on that one. It is concise. The stakes are high, but the main character is unexpected, and the story still revolves around the Doctor, even though he's not in it. That's real on-point writing. This tries to do the same thing in some ways, and absolutely, I just don't care. I just was really bored and kind of sad when it was over, just because I felt like I waited for this. So yeah, I'm down to a 1.5. I'll lock in there.
All right.
Sean goes back to his joke about voting for Roger Willem over Landry Q. Walker, but the joke's a little less now because he said 1.75. That's worse than anything that you would have that we've heard you talk about the Jodie.
I don't think I've ever given an episode this low of a rating, and I say this kind of painfully, and it really actually made me sad to say this, but I did not like it.
Pixel, your rating.
I was fighting between 7.5 and no, 7.5 feels right because I like a lot of the mystery of the episode. I do, even with unanswered questions. I really think the only thing we've ever given a lower rating than Necromantia.
Yeah, that's true. What do we give it? We give it like a 1.
Landry
was a 1.
What's that?
Was that Pixel?
No, I was asking what you said, Chris.
Oh, I said, didn't we give that like a 1 or something?
I can't remember, but
which one did you give a 1 to?
Necromantia.
I don't know.
It's a big Finnish story. It's the one where Peter Davison said, if you bring this writer back to write another story, I'm not coming back.
Wow. I want to know who wrote that. Jeez, that's rough.
Almost his big Finnish career.
It has a lot of questionably bad stuff. Its biggest problem is that it is so boring and forgettable.
Oh.
But
when we went live, I had just finished the story on the day that we went live, and I could not recount a single thing.
Wow.
It was that bad of a story. It was that boring of a story.
I can't tell you anything about it. But now for this episode, I feel like there's a lot that I will recount. If I rewatch it, I think a lot of the mystery of it will sit with me. I enjoyed it. For like the most part. In my head, I guess I gave a little headcanon which rationalized why everybody ran from Ruby afterwards. Because it was in fact Ruby that was driving her away from herself. But I like the feeling of this episode for the most part. Even with these large time skips. For all of this, just for that moment to say, don't step on the fairy circle. Watch your step. All of that, it hit with me really well. But I feel like it's very weak in that same vein, too. So its strengths and weaknesses are on balance. It's 7.5 for me. This is still a good episode in my mind, but it's definitely missing something in a lot of it. This isn't
Story. It's missing story.
No.
It's missing answers.
Answers are part of story.
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear you. Yeah.
For me, let's see. I would have to give it just a solid 7 with a whole lot of asterisks attached to it. Or a whole lot of quotation marks on it.
Don't give multiple answers here. Don't pull Landry.
Yeah, a 7 with a whole lot of asterisks on it because I really liked this episode. I was with it, but I just ended up being so frustrated with it because of just the lack of answers. It being too ambiguous. It needed to dial it back. I'm fine with ambiguity. I'm fine with mystery, but this just did too much, and it just made me question everything. Everything. I just kept on asking why. Why does that happen? Why is it like this? Also, what is the point? Because now we just go back to the beginning, so the whole kind of story is pointless.
Yeah.
Is that old woman the Ranny?
Because the thing is, if you're gonna do a story like this where Ruby has like quote unquote development, it means nothing if at the end it's undone.
So I think we need to really round this out because I'm feeling the lack of. I checked in with Jimmy to get his perspective, so Jimmy's gonna jump in with his opinion. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy. I gotta agree with everything Landry said. Landry is completely right all the time, and we all know I always agree with Landry. I gotta give this a 0.3 at best. It's a 0.3. I'm being nice. I'm being nice. Okay, I'm going to give it back to Landry because I'm very busy doing Jimmy things. So I'm going to go Jimmy out. Thank you, Jimmy, for supporting me.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Oh, wow, Jimmy. You've never looked better.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't like it, but Jimmy cuts to the truth, and it's good that I got Jimmy in my corner, is what I'm going to say.
Now, before you read this out, I'll say the thing is with this story, it is from what I've described it as. It's if you took Midnight and turned left and just made it even more confusing, because it's clearly that's what it's like. Russell's kind of borrowing. He's borrowing from himself again. Well, yeah, like, Russell, you did this much better in those two stories.
This is like Midnight, except that just as it starts going, you go, haha, just kidding, Doctor. There's nothing out there. You're so goofy. Anyway, on with the story.
So I just want to, the Great Bert, I don't know who you are, Great Bert, but welcome to the show. It said that he asked the sixth Doctor to explain the ending of 73 Yards to him, and he winked and said, I'll explain one day. It's a neat trick. But I really don't feel that. Like, it reminded me a lot of what was it? The Broke Neck Lady from Haunting of Hill House.
If you're gonna go through the McDonald's drive-through with me, guys. Go on.
Okay.
It's going to be very enjoyable.
I knew you wanted that.
I might have to mute you. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you can go ahead and mute me.
Okay.
Because I can't. Hi, can I get a number 2?
There it is. Okay. It reminded me of the Broke Neck Lady from Haunting of Hill House in a way. Because at the end of her own
never
life,
watched it.
Okay, well, at the ending of her own life, the living woman at the end, she becomes her own fear her entire life, in a way. And this echoes that a lot. because Ruby is trying to explain to herself that she's trying to warn herself away. And she's become stuck because of the curse that whatever the fairy circle did to the doctor went ahead and removed her. Her reading the scrolls has, in fact, affected her whole life. But the thing that we're glossing over is that Roger ap Gwilym does not run away. He runs away in this episode, yes, but this Ruby doesn't exist. It's an echo to warn Ruby to avoid this adventure entirely, this episode entirely, to save her, save the doctor, save herself from this fate.
But not the audience.
But not the audience. We have to go through it.
No, but that's the weird thing. It's just like, okay, they should have put, like I said, they should have put more emphasis on like Mad Jack being like this as the quote unquote threat, the antagonist. Because if the thing is, oh, Mad Jack is now unleashed and he's taking the form of this prime minister that's going to cause nuclear war, and like you and the doctor have accidentally unleashed him, so we're punishing you. You have to find a way to essentially stop him. It does, and then they go back in time and they don't step on the fairy circle. So if that's the implication that, okay, Mad Jack is still not unleashed, what was the point?
Unless
the end result is still the same.
This Ruby does exist in the same timeline as her own splintered self, just to avoid Roger ap Gwilym, because the doctor says he almost led the universe into nuclear war.
No, I thought he said he did, because he said
almost. Oh, he's pointing his fingers. Yes.
Okay, no, I was just agreeing with you. I'm still waiting for them. Thank you. Yeah, I was just agreeing with you.
So Ruby herself in this entire timeline, the reason why she goes ahead and she sends herself away is because she exists, but at the same time she's not. She is a lot like in Egyptian mythology. I can't remember the name of the goddess. I'm so sorry. But they are doomed for eternity to go ahead and fight this one specific god to keep them at bay. And so this Ruby does not exist. She splinters herself away from existence for everyone else for all time until the end, just to warn Ruby to step away so that she doesn't exist.
I mean,
this is third margarita in, so these guys can do nothing, but
what?
No?
Am I still muted?
No, you're muted.
No.
No, you're unmuted, I mean. Sorry.
Okay, so I think that now that I know that you're drunk, everything that's been going on here makes a lot more sense. Because
I watched the episode sober.
like you are definitely going to look back at this and go, "Oh, I said I liked it."
I liked it sober.
Okay, Sean says, Russell said something about Ruby had paid her penance for disturbing the fairy circle and is allowed to change the timeline back. Okay, Russell, put that in the fucking episode.
But if Robert is avoided, because Robert almost led the world to nuclear war, the doctor says as much. He's cut off, but he was saying that when he steps on the fairy circle. Roger ap Gwilym almost led them into nuclear war. If that is kept, if that exists, that means Ruby has splintered off from herself just to prevent this own moment. And it loops back around to make sure that the universe continues after that fact.
I think that if we have to try and explain the episode, that it wasn't well written.
I mean, yeah.
All right.
All of these things should have been explained in the episode. Like I said, we don't need to know what the woman says that makes people hate and fear Ruby. that is fine, okay? Because that is something that can always be left up to imagination. It is literally everything else.
All right.
Because if we have to headcanon it, if we have to like come up with it, I would say that Russell is not a good writer.
Okay. After we review this episode, after we end the stream, you're going to explain all of season 3 of Twin Peaks in your perspective because it's the same thing.
Oh, the thing is, Twin Peaks season 3 does have a story. It's just that last episode is just David Lynch indulging in David Lynch.
Okay, that's
because there is a story. The story is to stop Bob or to stop evil Dale.
And listen, there is a place for experimental fiction. There absolutely is. I don't want to suggest that, like, I am a big believer in rules without rails here, like stories without guidelines. Like, there is a place for it. Experimentation in fiction is important. This, however, they get 8 episodes of a mainstream television show primarily aimed at children, and it was confusing. Now, Midnight being a great example, you don't have to tell us what's going on, like, if everything else works. Like, that was a very small scale episode where hey, everyone, there's a threat. What do we do about threat? I don't know. All right, let's deal with it. I mean, it's basically this. We're left wondering what happened. We should not be left scratching our head with confusion and disparate opinions. Like, we should be able to go, oh, this is the story. It's weird. It was a weird choice.
Yeah, and I think so. Sean said earlier that like almost every episode this season has been experimental
in some fashion.
And I feel like you should maybe try 2 or 3, yes, but don't do the entire season.
I mean, if you only have 8 episodes, I'm not sure you should do any. Maybe 1.
Yeah.
As YW says, I heard from others who heard that the next episode, Dot and Bubble, is Doctor and Ruby Light. Like, they might not show up as much in it, which is weird. Yeah, if that's true, it's weird we're going from, like, essentially a Doctor Light episode to a Doctor and Companion Light episode. Like, in a row. It's gonna be tough if that is true.
I'm going to be very disappointed if the entire episode that focuses on those face-hugging slugs is going to just be a Dr. Light episode. This is definitely not going to be the next Blink. It's not. So it's like,
Well, here's the thing. If we have 2 Dr. Light episodes in an 8-episode season, that's 25% of the show.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
That's why you only do it once a season or once every couple of seasons.
Yeah.
In a longer season.
But as Sean pointed out earlier, these episodes might have been because of Shuvi's schedule rather than Russell's.
If he's not available, hire someone else to do the job.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, I get that. Listen, if you told me the guy was in a car accident or a family member died and he missed a bunch of shooting, I'm not going to blink at that. But if it's simply like, well, I had other job commitments. Well, okay, then you had other job commitments. Stick with your other job.
I mean,
and I would also say, like, again, from other Dr. Light episodes, it works if the main actor is busy or needs a break from something. Like, it works. Just not in this one.
Well,
and it's funny how Russell did that twice, and he did them better.
I think because they came along later, also in larger seasons. It's a less of a loss. They came along later. Like, okay, so we get one with Donna. What's the other one we get that Russell did? Blink, right? Okay. In both cases,
Love and Monsters was the one Russell did.
So another banger, and
yep.
How dare you?
We don't know the character we were left with. We don't know her. As with her fifth appearance, she's a mystery even to herself. Therefore, she is a mystery to us. She's not a relatable character because there's too many walls around her by design. And I'm not saying that's like a bad thing. That could really work well. But if you're going to make her drive the story, she is she's too opaque to drive the story without the Doctor 4-5 episodes in when she's nothing but mystery. So yeah. So it's the 1.5 might take down if we keep talking about it.
I think to me the tragedy makes it all the better, because if it is similar to what I said, that it is a splinter just to avoid this one madman who almost became prime minister. It's a tragic story, but that's still a story to me. And Love and Monsters is definitely not a better Dr. Light episode.
At least that one has an arc.
Where he ends up with his concrete slab. They have
at least with that one, I'm only frustrated in one thing, and that's the post-absorbable off reveal. That's it.
Like, let's go with that actually for a second. I know we usually joke about it, but let's go with it for a second. Our main character in there, and the friends he make, the whole point is they have each other and they can't see it. They are caught up in their obsession. They were lonely. They found something that brought them together, and then they almost lost it. And they learned to let go of their obsession and just be at the end of it. There is an arc. Whether you like it or not, the structure is there. What's the structure in this one? Just from a simply mechanical perspective, from writing perspective, what happened?
I mean,
it turns out by the end, nothing.
But if it is that Ruby puts Mad Jack to rest, makes him
again, that's your headcanon. That's not what the story explains to us.
This episode is open to as many headcanons as Twin Peaks season 3.
Well, I am not talking about Twin Peaks. I know. I'm talking about another episode of Doctor Who, and we can examine that episode and go, here's a character where he started, here's where he ended, this is his journey, and we can track it. Whether we like the journey or not, there is a trackable journey. When you put it down, just look at the story on a mechanical level. On this one, Ruby didn't even trip on the circle, and then the Doctor disappears, and stuff happens, and then maybe it's about this one guy, but it keeps going, and she's even confused, and then we're all confused, and then it ends.
But she did interfere with the circle because she read the notes.
She read the notes. That's true. She read the notes.
Yes.
She did do that.
And she goes ahead and she puts Mad Jack to rest. She follows.
Yeah, but then the story keeps going. It didn't stop there. It just kept going. And I didn't even, honestly, I barely felt the scale of him. They tried to make us feel the scale of him by doing something personal, like, and he's abusing this woman. It's like, that gets into a Harley Quinn problem when you're,
It just proves that he's even more despicable as he already is.
If you want to make your monster, if you're dealing with a show that regularly has planet-destroying monsters, if you want to make your monster banal, have them engage in banal, everyday human violence. The Joker is less strong when he is with Harley Quinn, for an example, because they turned the psychotic clown into a domestic abuser. And that is grotesque, obviously, and loathsome, yes, but in this very everyday, banal way. This guy, he's some kind of psychopath who wants to bring about nuclear Armageddon, and he might be inhabited by some monstrous pixie or something. Great. Have him be monstrous on that level, not on this banal, everyday street level.
The real answer is that it just needs to answer more of the questions that it asks, because because we're speculating, and I like my speculation. I'm not going to lie. I think that's how it goes, but that's just headcanon. So I mean, But I still think it's 7.5. I think Ruby's performance is strong. I think that the episode itself stands strong with her alone. The older Ruby actress was great. You felt that heartbreak at the end. And then she reaches out and stops her younger self, which is interesting, but it doesn't answer why it happened.
Again, yeah. I know some people have tried to also headcanon that. It's just like, well, Ruby can make it snow. So
great.
Yeah, she has time traveling powers. It's just like, yeah, no, if I'm fine with Ruby having some weird powers that she can't really control, but like there has to be a development. There's a big difference from making snow appear to literally traveling back in time.
No, you're right. The real disappointment was the friends we made along the way. The phrase.
Like that random old, not random old woman, the random woman that drags Ruby along at the end of the TARDIS.
Yes. Well, yeah, again, but no, there's way too much with this whole season that just feels like, and you watch other reviews and everything, everyone's just like, I think Russell's seeding this or that, and who's, Susan Twist, or she's here and she's there, and is she malevolent or not? I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And it's just so much bullshit of just like seeding or not seeding things and acting like things are being seeded, and it's like, enough. Just tell good stories. I don't get it.
Can you just focus on one thing, please? Yeah. Don't focus on 20. Can you do one thing, please? I feel like, and this is something I have a problem with a lot of shows. You need to act like this is your only season. Because that's the possibility. You might just get one season, and that's it. So don't end it on a cliffhanger, which is like, okay, now it's never going to get answered because, whoops, we got cancelled. Uh-oh. Just treat everything as just, this is the only season that is going to exist.
That's true of every show.
There's very few franchises that can do that well. And a lot of the times it's like particularly shows geared towards kids or like young teens, young adults, where it's just like, okay, this is very obviously going to be something that is going to be multiple seasons because the story is that big. It can't be done in one series. Okay, that's fine. But for something like Doctor Who, just one season. Just pretend this is the only season, okay? Then you can start something new in the next season. I don't need 50 different seeds that are all going to be explained in the next 200 seasons.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say something else that bothered me. I just remembered about this is we just had an episode where Ruby was erased from the timeline, right? And we got to see her. What's that?
Oh yeah, church. Yeah.
Yeah, and we got to see how like cynical her mother became because of it, and the whole. Why would I want a child? Why would I want to keep any of these? It's just money. That's who she became without Ruby, and then we saw something similar happen in this when she gets driven away because of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then she's back to that, like, I don't even like you. Go away. You're not my daughter, are you? And it's like, I just had this 3 episodes ago.
Yep. Absolutely.
You're really painting this character in a really good light, Russell.
Oh, I'm starting to really dislike her. She's like one hair's breadth away from hating her own daughter. Like, and I get it. Something obviously very big happened here. But we don't know what it was, so it doesn't feel very big. It just feels like twice now she's just turned loathsome. And yeah, it's weird. There's a weird
as Sean says, both Carla and Kate have been shown twice in a negative light. The giggle for Kate and church for Carla. And then this episode.
But I don't think that's fair. I really don't think that's fair. Because both were circumstances that went ahead and make those characters act against their nature.
They were,
Still.
except we don't see enough of them to know what their nature is. So it's not that subverting of their nature. It just starts to become them.
Yeah, like with Carla, we don't get a lot about her other than like she's really loving because she has a lot of these like foster kids. That's it.
Yeah,
She's loving because we were told she was loving.
Yeah, like I totally get what you're saying. It's more this idea of like you as the writer, and Russell wrote both these episodes. It's like you could have just not gone there again so soon.
Yeah.
Or
you're back at the same well.
Or if you're going to do that, it would make more sense in the season finale to like come full circle on something like that, maybe. But but now it's like no, this is
too soon.
Well, yeah.
So
you know, it's like maybe you could have figured out a way to tell the story without her being able to get to her parents for some reason or whatever. Like. Figure it out, but it was just like it was too soon.
We did find the one Kate Stewart fan, though.
I want to like Kate Stewart. I think the actress is fine that plays her.
I do have to point out that even my favorite writer, Stephen Moffat, has gone ahead and done the same trope to Kate Stewart.
Yeah,
he makes her unsure if she's herself. And so she acts in a nature that's just, oh, we can't like you. Day of the Doctor. It is that.
Yep.
The Brigadier was always so self-assured, and Kate always looks a little scared. Like, oh. That's like, I liked it when she sat down and she's so self-assured. And it kind of would have been great if Kate had just driven the bus from this point in some way. I mean, it wouldn't have made sense from a story perspective. It would have been really weird. But I would love to see a strong Kate. If you're going to do an episode that focuses on a not doctor, how about a Kate episode where we get a reason to care for her, other than that she's the Brigadier's daughter?
Which is what you'll get in A War of the Land and the Sea coming this year to BBC. No.
I don't think we need.
They made a mention of because there were rumors, and I don't think you were around at the time, Landry. There were rumors of a spin-off unit series that went ahead and unit involved called A War of the Land and the Sea, which would focus on the Silurians and the Sea Devils, something like that. Am I misremembering?
Yes,
yeah.
I see.
And they go ahead and they say that twice because they're on the cliff tops and they say it's War of the Land and the Sea. And so people keep leaning towards maybe it's the unit's supernatural angle on life now. But
there should have been another way.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, this has been our review of 73 Yards. Yes, very divisive episode. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure you come back to us for next week when we talk about Dot and Bubble. Will it get any better? I'm not liking the looks of it.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see.
I don't know.
Is it
Jimmy's here.
Monsters?
I can't wait for the next episode. It looks really exciting. I'm giving it a 9.9. Everyone tune in.
Jimmy, where the hell did you come from?
He's been hanging out a lot lately because he just needed to get out of, I think, the Pacific Northwest and come to the Bay Area. So that's why he's not on the podcast so much because just in downtime. But he's here in spirit, in spirit inhabiting a plush hamburger.
Good night.
See you next time, everyone.
ALLONS-Y.